Hi, my name is Ellis L. I'm the consumer guy. In about 1997 or 98, I was a consumer reporter here in the Bay Area on a TV station. I got a phone call from a woman who was seeking help. There was a school called Masters Institute that advertised on our station that they would give people education in technical subjects and they would help those people get careers. Well, the woman called and said this thing is a scam. She said that half the time professors aren't really professors, they're just advanced students, that the teaching was terrible, that there were people who would finish their coursework and not be able to get any employment. And what the school would do was get these students to sign up for government loans, and they would go into debt for as much as $20,000. The money would be paid to the school, and the student would be into the school for the money that was borrowed. Well, I looked into it, and I found out that there was an attorney who was representing some of these students. Well, I started investigating the story. I requested an interview with the guy who was the head honcho at Masters Institute. And when I went there with a camera crew, he informed me that in order to make sure everything was on the up and up at Masters Institute, he had hired on a new provost. And that provost was none other than the political consultant who we used on air at our station, who is a well-respected political consultant, known in the Bay Area. And this fellow, Larry, said that he would make sure that everything they did would be on the up and up. I continued my investigation until one day I got called into the station's general manager's office along with my news director. Now, before I started working at the station, the general manager had told me not to worry about any sponsors or advertisers on the station. He said that as a consumer reporter I had to keep my integrity, and I shouldn't worry about hurting anybody's feelings, so to speak, in terms of advertisers, to just go ahead with any investigation that I was going to do. Well, now here I am in the general manager's office, and he says to me, quote, "Ellis, I have feet of clay," end quote. In other words, he was saying, I cannot let you go forward with this investigation. You basically have to turn your back on the people who are seeking help from me, and I could no longer work with the attorney who was representing those students. Well, at one point I get a call from the woman who initially turned me on to this story. She said, "What's happening with your story? Are you going on air with it?" And I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "Why not?" And I said, "I can't talk about it." And she said, "Oh, so they got to you, huh? Yeah, so it's the money that's talking here." So basically what it was I was stuck. I couldn't help this person, and I knew because of the conflict of interest with the station, I was on the horns of a moral and ethical dilemma. Because what could I do? I was obligated to my employer. I couldn't really rat him out or rat out the company that my general manager worked for, and I didn't know what to say. She just accused me of selling out, and I said, "Listen, I can't discuss it, but you need to talk with our general manager," and I had to wash my hands of it. It disturbed me greatly. I had an obligation to the students at Masters Institute, and I had an obligation to my employer. It was awful. The upshot of the story is this. I want to say about 8 months later, a weekly newspaper here in Silicon Valley, the Silicon Valley Metro, blew the story wide open, and eventually Masters Institute went out of business. Now you have to remember, or should I indicate, that the general manager had said to me, the reason I can't go ahead with the story is that he couldn't afford to have $300,000 just go poof in the air. That's the way he put it to me. And that $300,000 is how much Masters Institute spent at our station every year. So because of that money, I was not allowed to go ahead with the story. But 8 months later or so, the Metro ended up blowing Masters Institute away, and we lost that income anyway. It was a terrible moral and ethical dilemma for me.